Welcome to the 7th episode of Checkpoint Radio, a mini companion podcast for busy folks who love video games. I'm your host, Josh Gallegos, and today we're going to be talking about EA's massive private buyout and Borderlands 4. If you like what you hear, consider subscribing to this YouTube or to my Patreon, either for free or at the $1 tip jar tier. On Patreon, you'll get my video game newsletter, NPC Weekly, directly to your inbox, and updates when podcasts like this one go live. My goal is for YouTube to be a supplement to the Patreon, obviously for free access to stuff, but also as a way to reformat even my NPC Weekly, which has several segments in it. Working on that and getting that into my schedule as far as like doing voiceover for it and so on and so forth. Obviously, and you're going to be able to tell even with this video, I'm not the best at editing, and I'm going to be working on learning some of that and getting better at it over the course of time. But for now, very simple YouTube podcast videos for access and enjoyment. But Patreon is where the fun is. Not only we get my newsletter, but you'll also get when updates when podcasts like this one go live. On Patreon, I have a bunch of other work as well. The piece I'm going to feature today, or at least talk about, is my work called Journey into Night Rain, which was a, think of it as like a op-ed on specifically Night Rain and on my time getting into it and how hard it was at first and kind of the transition into what is now a game I put like 130 hours into. So check that piece out on my Patreon. That's at Video Game Bard if you're looking for that. Of course, you can also follow me on X or Instagram at Video Game Bard, which is also the name of this YouTube channel that you're on. Regardless, I hope you enjoy the episodes. Let's jump right in. Our headline of the week is Electronic Arts is nearing a $50 billion deal to go private. A leveraged buyout, which I had to look up. I'm not the biggest in investments or anything like that, but a leveraged buyout is where several different, it looks like a buyer group of three different investment firms are working together, and they're going to pull out a bunch of debt, likely from something like JP Morgan, $20+ billion of debt in order to make the deal. The buyer group is Silver Lake, which is an American private equity firm, and then Saudi Arabia's, the Crown Prince's Public Investment Fund, and then Jared Kushner, who is the son-in-law of Donald Trump's Affinity Partners as well. So big money looking to buy out Electronic Arts, EA, which is obviously very well known for its Battlefield games, of which there is one coming out this year, or more famously, the sports games, Madden, now kind of being surpassed by college football, and then FIFA, now known as FC, and so on and so forth. They've made a lot of other games as well. They've dabbled in Star Wars with Star Wars Battlefront, and they've had their own smaller games. They've been involved in all kinds of different genres over the years. One of those big publishers, we used to say the big three, were the ones that also had E3 conferences. EA was one, so EA had their own, and then so did Activision, or maybe Activision didn't have its own press conference. I might be speaking too far ahead with that. I know Bethesda did, though, and Activision is certainly considered one of the big ones. Activision Blizzard for a time. Of course, now Activision has been already consolidated into Xbox, and then so has Bethesda. So those two major third-party publishers have already kind of been enveloped by Microsoft. And EA, I'm not sure if EA is trying to avoid something similar happening, or if this is just a great deal for them, but they're looking to go private, which is a pretty big deal. They've been a public-facing company for a very long time, and for them to go private would be a major shift in the games industry at large. As soon as this was reported over the weekend by Wall Street Journal, had the original headline, EA stocks jumped up sharply, pushing its market cap near up to $50 billion, which makes sense. And this is likely to come through tomorrow on Monday. Originally, I actually recorded this episode yesterday when it was more fresh news, and unfortunately I lost the audio for that. So hopefully I don't have a problem this time. I'm checking my mic to make sure it's on. Looks like it's good. We probably shouldn't have an issue this time. Fingers crossed on that. But when it was fresher news, it was still like, from what I can tell, even going into today, it seems like it's pretty sure. And tomorrow we're going to see that play out most likely, or at least the start of it begin. So interesting to see. And of course, the benefits for EA are broad. When it comes to EA in and of themselves, they are constantly, and this is any public-facing company, but they're constantly having to do quarterly reviews, and they're constantly have to push margins, and that has gotten them into a lot of problems in the past. They were voted the worst company in the world, or in America, I think, back in 2011 and 2012, beating out Bank of America for their encroachment practices, for their capitalistic greed, kind of like late stage capitalism, some would say, where they try to nickel and dime you. And they're a big reason that microtransactions took off, seasons for games took off, and loot boxes in particular were a notorious EA thing for a time. Ruined Battlefront 2 in particular, but had been causing problems for other games even before that. And they've always been known for being very greedy, for being very cutthroat and ruthless in the games industry, and almost to be separate from love of games themselves. They're very much an entity that represents the like cold-hearted, capitalistic business, right? That just like is separate from the love of the thing. And then they had these developers that were, of course, the artists, the game developers, and they would be the ones that would be bringing in the heart and the spirit, but then even they would get oftentimes the axe from the business side. So EA has always been notorious for that. It's had a very negative just reputation for a while in the games industry, and now this is looking like a shift, and maybe a shift for the better when it comes to their culture. Maybe this means that they're not going to be as money hungry. Obviously, they're still going to want to make money, of course, but without it being so tied into investing groups or investors themselves and shareholders, then maybe there's a way for them to become a little more intentional about how they do things. So that'll be interesting to see. The other thing would be, their ability to, now that they're not in the public scrutiny at all times, invest in unique things, which for them makes a lot of sense. Long-term game development as opposed to single year. Although if they wanted to keep up the year-by-year games, which they have, of course, in like their college football or their Madden series, they can do that more efficiently with AI. Now, AI has a lot of negative connotation to it, especially in game development and in coding. And I am sure there's an aspect of this where EA is looking at this and going, you know what? To avoid some of the public scrutiny and to get a little bit more into a private, a more secretive position, we can make this call, change hands into private hands, and get more involved in AI in a way that actually really benefits our company. They had already been pushing a lot of their teams to get onto DICE's engine for pretty much all their games, to unify stuff in that way. And so you can see AI kind of being another step in that process where they really simplify their processes and how they exchange information. And to the public eye, it's going to be a lot harder to do because that news is going to affect them more deeply. In private hands, that's a big change. Other forms of R&D, of course, will be involved. They have, of course, lower regulatory disclosures and burdens. I'm just reading this off of a list here. Faster restructuring, easier to cut things. When it comes to divestitures or layoffs, they can make stronger bets. There's tax advantages. There is the downside of the debt that they're going to accrue, but that's going to be something that they can deal with, of course, over the course of time. And this is that big bet, is that it'll be worth it so that they can make the money off the games going forward, using things to cut costs where needed, and it all end up paying off on the balance sheet at the end of the day. So really interesting. And what I really wanted to bring out more than anything is the fact that Saudi Arabia is involved in this, which... Okay, I don't want to make too much of this. Saudi Arabia has been involved in games for a while now, and the monarchy that's there, the theocracy, as they would claim, has a obviously ruthless bent when it comes to their culture. They live in Sharia law out there, and they're very Islamic. So the question is, like, how much of that do we allow the West to become deeply entrenched within? And the Electronic Arts is a Western company. So they've already been getting involved primarily, from what I was looking up, in esports. So they have a lot of investment in esports. They also have investment and stake in Embracer Group, $1 billion in Embracer. They have several esports groups, like I said, ESL and Faceit. Nintendo, they have a 5% stock in. They have shares in Activision and Take-Two, and they already are in EA. So this is going to expand their control, obviously, much, much deeper. So the question is, what are they hoping to get out of it? And how's that going to affect EA? Having a Islamic centrist group, and this is the Saudi Arabian government's investment firm. Like this would be like the United States government getting involved specifically in a video game company. That's going to change the messaging. That's going to change the way the games are made. That's going to change the scripts of the things. It's going to change the artists and how they are willing to and able to approach specific topics. And with that oversight, there's going to be a major shift in what the games look like or what's allowed. And some of that is more conservative. So as a conservative Christian myself, I could see like, okay, yeah, drawing back maybe on undue intense themes of leftism, or drawing back on maybe things like in Islamic countries, they don't love gambling. So even pulling back maybe on EA's stakes in microtransactions and stuff like that, I could maybe see that happening too. There can be some cultural benefits, but then you've got the cultural downsides in the censorship, the strictness of it, right? We got the same problem with Tencent in China, where they're moving into these industries and they're starting to dictate terms and change how people invest and what they make. It's already been happening in movies. It's happening in games now, and it's going to happen in a different direction now with Saudi Arabia. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. The other thing is just like, how much do we as the West want to really be associated and directly involved with people of a completely opposite culture? And they do things that we would consider human rights violations all the time in places like Saudi Arabia. Things that we morally do not agree with. And so it is a moral quandary of sorts of like, how much do we condone this? How much do we allow this? Is it our problem at all? If they're going to go along with our ideas, does it matter? Or does that open a door that eventually they use to take control later, which has been, of course, a big conversation when it comes to things like even just immigration in the recent years. So who's to say what exactly happens from this? EA is going to go through some big changes if this goes through, and it looks like it probably will. But the term I looked up and saw was sports washing, which is where entertainment can be used by a brutal company, or a brutal country, and Saudi Arabia isn't as brutal as some other Islamic countries, but can use this to sports wash, which means make themselves look better or more interested in being a freer state than they actually are, and so on and so forth. So kind of allows them to plaster a smiling face on a difficult situation. So we'll see what exactly comes from this. But really interesting news. At the end of the day, EA's buyout, $50 billion, is one of the biggest in history if it works out, this leveraged buyout. And it's not just a financial story. It is a story about politics, about culture, about values and what those mean, about what we as Americans are willing to put up with and whether or not we're willing to fight for our culture, or at the very least, that we should be concerned and cautious going into decisions like this on what that might mean for the companies that were traditionally American. And what's more American than Madden, right? So it's going to be a fun thing to see play out. That being said, I'll leave it there. Let's go ahead and talk about Borderlands as well. I've been playing a ton of Borderlands 4. I've been really enjoying it. I guess not a ton. I've played probably 15 to 20 hours, and some people put in like 200 plus hours now, so I don't want to make it sound like it was way more than others. But I have really been enjoying it. It's definitely a return to form. The gameplay is fantastic, and I'll start there. It's Borderlands in all of its glory. Borderlands 3 and then Tiny Tina's were where it kind of started to turn a corner towards the negative, and 4 has brought it back to the heritage of 2. But 3 always had a decent handle on some of the gameplay. The gunplay has always been decent, but I do feel like there was a drop-off in quality when it came to the guns themselves, both in 3 and Tiny Tina. So it feels like in this game, even in the guns, and of course it's known for the millions and millions of different types of guns, Borderlands, even in that, you feel like quality to them and a tactile sense to them that's kind of been missing. 2 had it. 1 didn't. Like 1, it kind of feels rough to go back and play. 2 definitely had a certain feel to like, man, this feels good. Like everything about it feels good. And not that the other games didn't have that, but 4 is like another level. Like they've really modernized it, even in just the gunplay itself. And that's just one aspect. I could also talk about the enemy variety. I feel like this enemy variety is the best that they've ever had, maybe even since 2 again, where there are a lot of challenges, a lot of unique enemies, different types, different factions, and that all pushes you in different ways, causes you to approach. I die a lot in the game just from my own lack of paying attention and awareness. And I've learned very quickly how to approach it, because in the previous games, I could kind of just mindlessly blow through it. But with 4, it's starting to push back more in a in a strategic sense. It's not in a negative sense. It's in a good sense. And so in the enemy variety, in the gunplay itself, and then in the movement. And this is where I'm really seeing some big leaps forward. Borderlands has always been about its simpleness, right? It's just kind of like you run, you jump, maybe you can jump higher or whatever in Borderlands pre-sequel. The guns are kind of the forefront of this, but they know that they're dealing with a lot of silky smooth competition when it comes to games like Fortnite and Apex or beyond, Call of Duty even, and Battlefield is starting to get a feel for this too, where it's like you got to be better about how your character plays, how it feels to move. And they have done a lot to improve. That comes with a grapple. If you put a grapple in your game, I'm all for that. Like, great job with that. And it is a very satisfying one. So it's been awesome to kind of aid in traversal with the grapple and use it in a lot of other means. My favorite thing is reaching out, grabbing a explosive, like a barrel, which are always an iconic thing in Borderlands. They're kind of laying around. You're supposed to shoot them to hit the enemies. But you can grab it with your grapple now, pull it in, and then chuck it at the enemy. And just that little addition makes it feel so much better and so much more nuanced and interesting. And then you have stuff like the dodge mechanic. There's like a whole strafe or dodge mechanic that they've added in. A floating mechanic where you can jump and then kind of glide, I guess, through the air for a period of time as well. These things sound like they're small, but they take what is a basic Borderlands approach in now an older 2 and 3 even. Didn't have this stuff in it, and brings it up to the level of modern games where it's like, this stuff you got to do now. Like, if you tried to just stick with the basic movement of the other games, I would have kind of been like, I probably would have felt like old design. Like, this is just this where we've moved past this, right? But 4 has modernized in that sense while keeping all the stuff that has made Borderlands awesome in the past. So just all the things that are great about the games in the past, the guns, the enemies, are back here and done to a high quality. And then they've added this stuff on top, the movement. The other big improvement to the game, I would say, is the UI itself. The menus in Borderlands have always been notorious for being way too complicated, way too many different things going on, very almost annoying to try to navigate. In Borderlands 3, it was really bad. You would pull up the menu, and I remember this. You'd pull up the menu, you'd pause it, and the game would hitch and slow down and freeze, and then it'd pull up this massive, like, all these different words and numbers and colors, and it was just annoying and stressful to look at. So they fixed that, which is really awesome. And these menus are pretty good. There's still some density to them, so you do have to navigate probably 2 clicks more than I would prefer, but I understand these games are going to have a need for that. So the way they've organized it just feels so much better than even 2. Borderlands 2 also kind of had that problem. And so in the menu and the user interface, it's much better. It's not as, there's a lot of explosives and numbers and all this stuff. Like, it's very much overstimulating in that way. Oh, I got a hair. Hopefully it was a mustache hair. Anyway, the numbers and stuff, the HUD, right? All that stuff is still definitely kind of over the top. But I do think that they did a good job, again, of making it kind of fit really well with the quality of the entire game and not just be like this overload of ridiculous, aggressive colors and explosions and numbers popping off and all that stuff, right? And that's really where Borderlands 4 also shines, is in the graphics. So I can kind of transition into that. These games have always had that cel-shaded aesthetic. It's what's always made Borderlands unique, and it was kind of one of those things that, like back in the day, it's like, this looks a little different from other games. Kind of looks cartoony or comic booky, so it makes it almost seem childish, and they reinforce that with some of the other themes when it comes to their dialogue and stuff. But this game takes the spirit of that and makes it absolutely beautiful. I had a friend who's talking about, like, I don't really want to play Borderlands because of how it looks, like the cyberpunk cel-shaded vibe. Like, I just don't care for that particular aesthetic. And I was like, well, try it. Like, get the game and let's play it together and see what you think. And he got it, and he was like, this game's beautiful. Like, as soon as we got into the first main open world, I just kind of, like, the big open area at the start of the game, I kind of just stopped and looked around. And my friend did something similar when we played through that together. He was like, this is kind of nice. Like the area looks cool. This forest looks beautiful. You can kind of see like waterfalls or beaches and all this stuff. And the biomes are really great. Overall, the world of Kairos is really awesome. And the open world feeling of it is much better than I think what they were doing with 3, where it was a lot of like separate areas. Same thing with 2. A lot of separate areas. Now it's kind of a lot more cohesive and focused in that way too. A lot less jumping between planets or areas like in Tiny Tina's. And that has made the whole thing, again, feel much more modern and a lot less hokey and old school. So they've modernized it in all the ways they really need to. And then to top it all off, the story's good. The dialogue's great. Finally. 3 was so annoying, dude. 2 has Handsome Jack, which is like one of the greats. So I don't think this Timekeeper enemy, and I haven't finished the game yet, but the Timekeeper doesn't seem like he reaches Handsome Jack's levels in Borderlands 2. What did I say? Handsome Jack. But it's so much better than 3. 3 had the annoying like millennial influencer vibe. And the dialogue, just whatever was going on with the writing in 3 was just not good. And this is a return to form. It's much more serious. It takes itself more seriously, which I think you need. Like some of the ironic, tongue-in-cheek aspect of what we went through kind of in the 2010s overall is just outdated, overplayed, and annoying to me. It's that, that MCU dialogue sort of thing where it's a little too self-aware. So going back to a little bit more of a sincere, unironic, self-serious approach has really helped Borderlands to take on a more mature feel at the same time that the dialogue itself has become even funnier. Because when it is funny, it's funny for the right reasons. It's not just trying to hit you with a joke. It's doing it in the context, and it's witty, and it's great because of that. The great example is Claptrap. Claptrap is a historically very annoying character, but in 4, I love him. And he's still annoying, but the things he does and the way that they use him is very interesting and witty and clever in a way that it just hasn't been in the last few titles. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the story plays out. But just in that alone, I'm like, man, breath of fresh air, especially after 3. 3 was when it came to, just so bad when it came to the dialogue and the story. So 4 has been awesome. And I'll leave you with this. I'm pushing past my time, way past my time. Spent a lot of time conversating at the beginning here. But last thought here. The 4th mainline installment in the Borderlands franchise has proven to be a refreshing return to form for the series. With high-quality enemy type variety, world design, gun quality, dialogue cleverness, plot strength, and a gorgeous aesthetic combining to make you almost completely forget about Borderlands 3. That, plus some much-needed quality-of-life improvements to movement and UI, have made this perhaps the best Borderlands ever. I cannot recommend it more. Find some friends, hop into co-op, and jump into Kairos for some new Borderlands goodness. And I will say, really great in co-op, but also good in solo play. Perfect combo there. Thanks for listening and watching. We'll get you again next week with Checkpoint Radio.